Hello, my name is Mike Davis Marks, and I'm the managing editor of the Veteran.uk and a co-founder and director of Veteran Force. Both those organisations are looking at the extraordinary skills that veterans can offer both employers and society at large, and we set up this Veteran Voice podcast series in order to talk to them about what they've got up to after their military service, and also about what they learned from their military skills, taking them forwards. So without further ado, roll on.
Welcome to this edition of the Veteran Voice. With me today I have Peter Moody, who is formerly of the Royal Navy. He advanced from that through an interesting, often difficult transition, and using all his Navy skills, everything that he'd learned in 23 years of service, he put them to work on becoming an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, he's been a wonderful success, great success, and he's here with me today to explain how the Navy helped him to achieve that, and also talk about his other interests and his support for various charities. Peter, welcome to the Veteran Voice. It's lovely to have you on the programme.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Perhaps we could just begin by going back to your young life. You're from the Newcastle area. And football supporter?
Newcastle United, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Rugby as well. I like the rugby.
I'm surprised, yeah.
Yeah.
And the rugby as well?
Yeah, we're big supporters of what was Newcastle Falcons and what is now Newcastle Red Bulls. So.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So was that something that started in your childhood then?
Yeah, I've always loved rugby. I've always played rugby. And now I like sitting in a box watching rugby as opposed to running around from scrum to scrum, basically. Yeah.
Right. And football, was that?
Football, yeah. I've been a keen Newcastle fan. Used to follow them home and away in the 80s. And then I lost touch with football, or I fell out of love with football when Sir Bobby Robson was Newcastle manager. And
Great
I
man.
don't think he got treated very well, to be honest. So I thought, why should I put my hard-earned money into some footballers with bad behaviour? So I stopped the Newcastle football. I still go to games and still follow them, but more so from the couch in the newspapers now.
Who was your big heroes on the football?
Well, I was Peter Beardsley and that team, you know, that Kevin Keegan sort of teams where the opposition might score 3, but they would go out and score 4. That was always entertaining. So,
It was very entertaining team. That.
Yeah.
I remember it myself.
Oh, good. Yeah, they were good times.
I'm Hull City, by the way.
Hull City, well, you've done well.
Yeah, thank you.
No.
So, Royal Navy, how did that come about? I heard a story that you weren't all that enamoured with school, and you didn't perhaps do as well as you wanted to, but you've done immensely well. So
yeah, academically, I struggled really bad at school. I was in the bottom set for everything. It's funny because I moved from Gateshead when I was about 10 or 11 to Newcastle, and we moved into an area where it was a lot more affluent than when the area in Gateshead I'd come from. And I remember sitting down with my father and my mother, and the headmaster says, what does he excel in, and what level of French is he at? And my dad said, he can only speak English, never mind French. So, which really done me confidence a world of good. But academically, I wasn't great. And it wasn't until I joined the Royal Navy that really I found out I was dyslexic. In the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, I think if you had dyslexia, you were just a thick lad, or a thick girl. If you had some kind of ADHD, you were just a troublemaker. I think it's a lot easier now I'm not saying easier, people recognise conditions now in school kids, and they put measures in place to give them every opportunity. But in the late 70s and in the early 80s, I just struggled through school got into trouble. You know, didn't really want to go to school. I had a great family life. My mother held 3 cleaning jobs down to put food on the table. So we were never rich. You could tell what day it was by what was the food coming on the table. You know, the back end of the week was always beans on toast. The front end of the week was a little bit better. So my childhood was like that. Lots of loving, but you know, every penny was a prisoner sort of thing. So yeah.
So how did you make your moves into the Navy then?
My mother, HMS Otter, which was a P&O class submarine, had a port visit into Newcastle, and me and my mother queued up for hours. They had opened a visitors' day, and we queued up for hours, and it was a long day. And I remember going down one hatch through the submarine, out the other hatch, but at the in-between, I remember sitting on the after periscope, roundabout, spinning round, telling me mum I'm going to join the Royal Navy. So I would have been about 8 at the time. And when we were going home, I says I was buzzing, and I says I want to join the submarine service, and my mum just right, oh son. You know, and that was it. And then 8 years later, I was sitting down HMS Otter having a drink as a qualified submariner. Would have been probably 9 years later, 10 years later, but we got there in the end. So
That's amazing. So same ship.
See, I was on HMS Sea Lion at the time, which was a P-class submarine.
Right.
My friends were on HMS Otter that I went through training with. So sitting down, having to be on the forward mess with mates, you know, who were ship's company on there was a complete turnaround. And looking back, you know, from where we started to get to that point was really satisfying.
Mm. For submariner purists, I should say boat, shouldn't I?
Boat, yeah.
I said ship.
Yeah,
yes.
no, it's a boat.
Boat. I apologise to all viewers,
all
listeners,
submariners, yeah.
and all submariners. So, tell me about life in the Royal Navy at that time.
God, at the time, so I joined up in 1983, January 1983. So the Falklands War, the ships were sort of coming back. So there was a lot of buzz going on. You know, I think the military were in the public eye a lot. Obviously, they're just taking the Falklands back. It was great. I loved basic training. I loved my trade training, my submarine training. You know, and it was good. The biggest stressful moment I had when I joined up, believe it or not, at HMS Raleigh, it wasn't the physical side, it wasn't sort of the leadership or the being away from home. It was passing my NAMIT exam, which was a Navy, it was a mathematics and English test, and you had to get 5, I think it was, to pass, and I stressed about that more than anything else. Really? And yeah, something really simple as that give us more stress during training than anything else. Yeah.
Other than that, if you look back through your Navy career, what was the most challenging moment? What was the most challenging time?
Professionally or
professionally, yeah.
For me personally, I being dyslexic, and I was a communicator. So being a dyslexic communicator probably wasn't the right branch to join up as. So there was a lot more pressure on us there, and I really struggled with their written word. And of course, when IT progressed and we got access to computers and to Microsoft Office, all that disappeared. I could articulate, you know, I could write things down and put good letters together. Everything else I couldn't spell. So it did hold me back for a period, but the shackles were off when I got a PC and Word and all the rest of it. So little things like that.
How did your career play out then in terms of different postings. And,
Yeah, I've done all type, or at the time was all classes submarines. So I started on P&O boats, then went to the bombers, the Vigilant class, and then I ended up on the Swift Shore class. So I done the old diesel, the bombers, and the fast attack. So in all great for different things. But overall, I love my time on the diesel electric boats. It was just rough and ready, and you could pull into ports. You didn't have the baggage of a nuclear reactor, and I think the submarine captains of diesel boats had a lot more freedom. You could actually, we had one captain that was a lieutenant. So,
yeah.
I mean, can you imagine being a submarine captain as a two-ringer? That must have been fantastic. So, yeah, so I loved all the class of submarines, all different roles, covert ops, through to Portland runner and everything in between. Yeah.
So, after just over 2 decades, you decided to make a move out of the Royal Navy.
Mm-hmm.
What was the main driver for that?
Well, I'd done 23 years. My eldest girl, I hadn't really seen her growing up a great deal. The only time I had spent a lot of time at home or with them as a family, I'd done a 2.5-year stint in Naples working for NATO. We'd had another girl, she was 3, turned nearly 4, and I just wanted to see her grow up, wanted to come home. And that was it. At the time, I didn't get 2OE, which was a second open engagement, so I just prepared myself for Civvy Street.
And that was in and around Newcastle, was it? The family was still
Yeah,
in Newcastle?
I'd never lived on a married patch. I'd always had my family in Newcastle. So, if you were on a boat, I was always I would work every hour during the week that God could send to get a runner on a Friday to get home to see the family. Yeah.
Right. So when you started to transition, I mean, what were your thoughts in terms of what you were going to do, where you were going, how you were going to support yourself, your family?
Yeah. I think I joined the Navy with absolutely no qualifications. I always took my education grant. So I got myself educated, and obviously when I knew the problems that I had, we can put measures in place. So I'd done A levels, I'd done Open University, I'd done management exams. So I had like a 5-year plan where I knew it's a queer job, isn't it? When you know 20 years later the day you're going to retire from that job. As long as you're a good boy, you don't do anything naughty. So I knew my 5-year plan was, right, how do I get myself prepared for Civvy Street? I knew I wanted to be in the northeast area, and I had a plan to do that, which I executed. And what happened was, I knew there was a new waste directive coming in, and that was what they call the WE directive, the Waste Electrical Electronic Equipment Directive. So that was becoming legislation. So
this was an EU directive.
This was an EU, yes. So it was European wide. So we could no longer put electrical goods in holes in the ground for landfill. So it was a whole new waste stream that was going to come online, and I thought I could do that, So I thought my timing was perfect. So I left in I think it was May 2005. And in June 2005, the WE directive was going to become into UK legislation. So I thought my timing's great. This is fantastic. I'd put all my gratuity into it. So I took my full amount of gratuity I could take. I remortgaged the house. I got a grant off the Royal British Legion, which I'm ever grateful for. Put all that together. Rented property, industrial unit, and then the WE directive got delayed for 6 months, then delayed 6 months, and then delayed 6 months. So, you know, we're 18 months down the line, and I've left the comfort blanket of the military. You've got a good pay, you've got constant pay, and I had nothing. And my father was bringing groceries so we could feed the kids, essentially. It was a horrendous time. So it got delayed that long that I was weeks away, no more than a month from losing my house. So I remember to this day hugging my wife in the kitchen saying, I think we're going to lose the house.
And all of this, taking a gamble on an EU directive. I think you're the only person that I've ever met who's mortgaged his house upon hearing that there was an EU directive of some sort.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research. It wasn't like it was coming in. It's just the timing was horrendous. You know, I'd actually.
But that must have taken a hell of a lot of courage to.
Looking back, it did.
To do that. And you know, on the back of something that's coming out of Brussels, which might become, you know, well, it would become, but after how long, law in this country, and you could see the economics and the financials of this.
Yeah, no.
But building doing everything you were doing to build a business on the back of.
The stress was unbelievable, and you get stressful times in the military. In the submarine service, you can do underwater looks, you can do under ice, ops, you can do all kinds.
Yeah.
And I never, and I would do that every day of the week when setting the business up again, than the way I did, with the pressures involved in that. But I think the military teaches you one thing, and it's to keep going and to react and plan. Every plan, potentially it's going to go wrong, and that went wrong. So, we stuck in there, and I remember getting the first phone call 18 months after the WE directive had become into law. Because I'd still done all the network and I still put a suit on and I went out and I gave my cards and I talked to people, but I was trying to sell a service that was new and I was asking to pay for something that they never had to pay for in the past. So that was a hard sell from someone not, any commercial background. So, but I'd give that many cards out that I remember a phone call from Sunderland Council saying, can you come and talk to us about sorting our TVs out? And then I went there, and then from there, we just went. I'll tell you a little story, actually. The next contract that we had the potential to win and was for Newcastle Council to dispose of their fridges. So the prerequisite was we had to have so much industrial unit to process bulk, all that sort of stuff. I didn't meet them requirements. So essentially I went round and looked at a property that was up for lease with the tenant, with the landlord, and then I arranged for Newcastle Council a time that was convenient for me, and then I went back, asked if I could measure a few things up, got the keys, showed the council round, went back and handed the keys back, and the council thought that was my premises, and then we went forward from there. So it was a bit of a bit cheeky, but we got there in the end, and I got the contract.
That's amazing story.
So,
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And how does the company work? I mean, it collects this stuff, and then what?
We're now the largest electrical waste processor in the UK.
Yeah. And what happens to the waste then that you turn it into?
In the last 5 years, we've spent £24 million on kit.
Yeah.
And we use mechanical separation, so we can do nearly 4,000 fridges a day now. We put them through shredders. We use magnets to take ferrous off. We use different separation techniques to separate the ferrous, the non-ferrous, the plastics. We extract the gases, and then they'll go for further separation from there. So the polymers, for example, the plastics, that then goes into a polymer line, density separation. And we ultimately, the plastics go back into manufacturing to make new products. So it's a full 360 solution we offer our customers now,
That is absolutely brilliant business concept, and where it came from and how he did it is a very aspirational story for anybody who's listening.
Yeah, we've
got business ideas that not related, or maybe related, but just building a business from the start is something which takes tenacity and courage and all the soft skills that you brought with it from the armed forces.
Well, I'm really passionate about veterans. A lot of veterans undersell themselves. The transferable skills we have is astonishing when you look into the civilian world and the military world and look, your CEOs or your senior leadership teams or your HR teams don't appreciate the transferable skills a lot of veterans can bring to the organisations. And we've just recruited an ex-Army brigade warrant officer. He wasn't the best on the interview, but me and the team, we employ quite a lot of veterans, just knew what he could bring, and he's been fantastic, with that. It's just veterans underselling themselves all the time is just something that winds us up, because it's, honestly, but being a veteran and coming into a civilian organisation, institution, or whatever it is daunting, but the skills that you bring to that organisation is immense,
You also give back, don't you, to the military community, the armed forces community, in various ways, and I understand one of them is military versus cancer, which you were, I believe, a trustee of for a number of years, and then you moved on from that when your time was up, but you're continuing to assist them.
I still support them. I was the first trustee with Military v Cancer, and it's a great organisation. It helps fantastic. It supports a fantastic cause of veterans or close family relations to get access to grants to do some things, to make memories, to make improvements or whatever, to live the best life they can, in whatever time they've got left. So really quite passionate about that. So if anybody's listening to that and wants to support, it will be welcomed. Yeah.
That's a very good note to finish on, Peter. It's been a great pleasure having you on the Veteran Voice today, and there's lots there for veterans to chew over in terms of, the inspiration and the resilience and all these things which you've harnessed, developed, used to create the business that you've got, and long may it continue to develop and succeed. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you very much.